Haunter, let's go! Alright, so I'm gonna start with circle and then add a bunch of pointy things. After that, I'm gonna start with the ink, make sure it looks good and clean, and keep working on that. Then we're gonna start with the lettering, but it's gonna take forever because I don't know how to spell. After that, add some color and then keep working on lettering because I'm illiterate, and then we're done. Yo! Wiggly boy, let's go! Alright, so we're gonna start working on the mound. Make sure it looks nice and moundy. Then we're gonna start working on the body, add some eyes and a big nose. Then we're gonna start with the ink. Make sure it looks clean, add some color, add our lettering, and then woohoo! We're done. Shelly boy, let's go! Alright, so we're gonna start with a bean, then add a face to it, add a shell on the top, another shell on the bottom. Then we're gonna keep adding the face, add a big tongue, and start with the ink. I'm gonna make sure that it's all cleaned up and nice with all those little details. Start with our lettering, then add some color, and bang, we're done. Litwick, let's go! Alright, so I'm gonna start with the circle and then make it look thick, add some drip to make them look nice and clean, add our flame, and then start with the ink. Once we get that down looking good, we start with the color, add some lettering to make it look nice, and boom, we're done. Bonsly, let's go! Alright, so I'm going to start with the circle and then start making them look like a tree. Add a face, add a bunch more circles. Then we're going to start adding the details, give them some little feet, and then start cleaning them up. After that, we're going to start with the ink. Make sure that it's all nice and start with the lettering. Add some color, and then wow, we're done. Bellibolt, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with a blob. Then we're going to add some beans to it, put a giant egg in the middle, and then start with the ink. Make sure that looks cleaned up and then start with the color. After that, we're going to start working on the lettering. And once we have that done, woo, we're done. Eiscue, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with the cube and make sure it looks cubey. Then we're going to add a bean on the bottom. After that, we're going to start adding its face and then the rest of its body and start with the ink. Make sure that it's going to look nice and clean. Add the color, start adding the lettering, and yup! We're done. Spooky boy, let's go! Alright, so we're gonna start with the head. Give it a bean and a box. Then we're gonna add another box in the back and give it some feet, a candle, and make sure it looks good with its hair and details, and start with the ink. Make sure that it's all cleaned up and nice as we start adding the lettering and the color, and then boom, we're done. Zubat, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with a bean, and then we're going to add some ears and wings. After that, we're going to put in the details and start with the ink. Once we get that down, we're going to make sure it looks clean, and then start with the lettering. After we get that all ready and nice, we're going to add some color, and then boom, we're done. Farigiraf, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with the head and give it a boxy body. We're going to keep working on that, make sure it looks clean, add the details, replace the body with a bean. Then we're going to start with the ink. Make sure that they're looking clean with all the little things on them. Then start with the color. After that, we're going to put on some lettering, and woo, we're done. Raboot, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with the circle, start working on the face, make it look clean. Then we're going to add a bean body, and we're going to keep working on it to make sure it looks perfect. After that, we're going to start with the ink. Start cleaning up, adding some lettering, and then once we get that done, we're going to put in some color, and boom, we're done. Sprigatito, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with a circle in a box, start adding some legs and things, give it this little scarf thing, give it some fur, give it its face, and then start with the ink. Once we get this all down looking clean and nice with the details, we're going to start with some lettering, add some color, and once we're done with the color, booyah, we're done. Lunatone, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with a circle and then make it look moody. Add some points and some details and start with the ink. Make sure that Lunatone looks nice and clean, and then we're going to add some color. Then we're going to spend a bunch of time on the lettering because I don't know how to spell, but that's alright. After that, boom, we're done. Pawmi, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with the bean, then we're going to start adding some ears and a big fluffy thing. Then we're going to start with its legs and its face. Make sure that it's all clean and nice with the details, and start with the ink. Once we get that down right, we're going to add some lettering. After that, we're going to add color, and then boom, we're done. Swirlix, let's go! Alright, so we're going to start with a circle and then make it look fluffy. Add a face, add some details, and start with the ink. Once we get this all down looking nice and clean, we're going to add some lettering, make sure it looks good, and then start with some color. After that, boom, we're done. Zorua, let's go! go! Alright, so we're gonna start with a circle, and then we're gonna start adding some facial features, make it look like Zorua, then I add a little body, some legs and stuff, and start with the ink. As we get this down with the details, make sure it looks nice and clean. We're gonna add some color, add our lettering, and then booyah, we're done. Carnivine, let's go! Alright, so I'm gonna start with a bean and then start adding his face. After that, we're gonna add another bean, add some more details, and start adding some arms. Once we get all that settled, we're gonna start with the ink. Make sure that Carnivine's looking nice and clean. After that, we're gonna put on some lettering. Once we get that done, we're gonna add some color, and then bang, we're done. Armarouge, let's go! Alright, so I'm gonna start with a circle and then start adding armor. Add a bunch of beans and continue adding more armor. We're gonna keep cleaning that up with all the details and start with the ink. As we're adding the ink, we're gonna make sure that all those details stay and look nice and add some lettering. Once we get the lettering done, we're gonna throw the color on and then bam, we're done.